welcome to another video. In this video I'll be discussing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Price action has been really brutal over the last few weeks, but we finally got a sell-off out of the range. So I think it's worth discussing new levels to look for long arguments and just my general thoughts and opinions on the market in the current state. To make things very simple for Bitcoin, I believe there's two main levels that you should be aware of. The first level is 115.2 and the second level is 111.8. The first level comes from the previous Bitcoin range low. As you can see, we are using this wick as our range low. We're extending it to the right. We see a strong interaction with the level that sent us to the range highs, which is great. We also see that price swept the liquidity here, set the low, held the low, swept that low, went for the range high. We can see when Bitcoin begins its leg lower that price is attempting to bounce from the range low yet again. We have another sweep of the lows within here with a long lower wick, which looked really good at the time. But then unfortunately, the second H4 candle, the candle after the sweep, didn't confirm the sweep. We got a close below the range low, and you could see what happens after that. Again, another significant move from the origin of this range low. So I believe if and when Bitcoin retests this range low of 115.2, it's going to be a very notable level, and it's going to be an interaction that you want to pay attention to. And it's one of those levels that's very simple, where if price is above that level, then I would have more bullish arguments. But if price is chopping around that level, I would not fully open bullish arguments until we get a full reclaim above this level. And the other main level to be aware of is 111.8, and that is the previous all-time high as well as the most recent daily breakout point. You can see below here the daily consolidation period before smashing through that level. We could see also that we got held up by this level very briefly on, you could see with this daily candle here. The daily candle after that wicked below that level, but clearly interacting with this level was very necessary. You could also imagine that price use this level as a launch pad to send prices higher. That's how I personally think of it. So overall, this is also a very important daily level to have highlighted. So again, I think the argument for Bitcoin is very simple on higher time frames, where if we lose the previous all-time high, then I would be concerned for the overall higher time frame structure of Bitcoin. It would be a failed breakout in my eyes. But as of right now, this is one of those levels that's like the max risk to reward, where you had a decent move away from the level. Now price is retesting that level. People are panicking, but really all it is a higher time frame retest of a key, massively important daily level. Okay, so that's kind of where you have to ignore the noise and just zoom in, look at the levels, stay calm, buy the level if you want, or wait to see the reaction if you want as well. Also, to give you a little bit more insight into the level, you could see I'm on the H4 time frame here. You could see the consolidation on the H4. If we extend it to the right, we could see the very brief consolidation on the H4 before sending us to a fresh all-time high. Okay, so clearly this is going to be an important level. It's very similar to the level I discussed probably months ago now at 77 or 76.7, something in there. I have a video on it somewhere in here, where it's a very brief consolidation period that most people will overlook, but it's still very impactful to the overall price action of the chart. Moving on to Ethereum here, the chart is not as straightforward as Bitcoin in my opinion. Well, actually it is, but it isn't, I guess. Follow me for more TA tips like that. But there's very clear levels on Ethereum. But the main issue, and really what I'm struggling with for Ethereum, is that those levels are pretty far away from the current price, while Bitcoin is kind of at its bounce area, which doesn't necessarily mean that Ethereum can't sell off while Bitcoin either goes sideways or bounces a bit. That's perfectly fine. But anyway, I'm on the 3-day chart here. I feel as though this is the area where I could really highlight how clean these levels are. The range high, the upper level is 39.80 and the range low is 3219. The range high is pretty straightforward. We have the high before a sell-off. If we extend that to the right, we could see a wick into the level. We can see bodies into the level. We could see wicks above the level. And now recently, price didn't even make it up to that level before selling off. So to me, that is a valid range high and one that I will keep highlighted and continue to see the interactions with that level going forward. The range low is very similar, where price set the high, set the low, The bounce occurs from here. We break down through the level, wicks bodies below the level, really attempting to break out from the level. We finally do. So this is a breakout point, sell off back into the level, wick into the level, sell off, you get it. So a bunch of interactions with the range low as well. So to me, that's going to be a very key level for Ethereum going forward. That's 3219. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, that's really what I have to work with on Ethereum. The daily time frame doesn't really give me anything to work with in terms of recent price action. We have the daily consolidation period at the 2650s area, which definitely doesn't help me at all. But we have the breakout point or the consolidation just below the breakout at just above 3K, which doesn't help me. So it's one of those difficult charts where recent price action is not really going to help us. So we need to zoom in and break it down to lower time frames to really pinpoint an entry and see if there's any trade setups developing. So like you saw, I started with 2 high time frame levels. So I kind of have my base and I can build on that foundation with lower time frames. Like I said, the daily doesn't really help me too much. It just confirms what I'm thinking from the 3-day chart. So that's great, I guess. On the H4 really is where something will have to develop. All right, so on the H4, we have the low before price grinds even higher after the breakout. So you have breakout, 2 fat breakout candles, a little bit of a sell-off, not anything crazy, obviously, before grinding even higher. So this little bit of a sell-off, you could say, is the origin of the breakout. Now that's very loose. I wouldn't really argue too much about it. It's just a low before a move higher is also a way you could look at it. So if we extend that level to the right, you could argue that this is an area filled with some liquidity. So what's good about this is we have our low, and then just below it, we have our higher time frame level at the level I discussed earlier. So now this kind of helps a bit with arguments. It's still 5% away from current price, which is really nothing in the crypto world, nothing at all. But it's still level 2 have highlighted and 1 to be aware of and see if there's going to be some kind of long argument forming from that level. So let's say none of those lower levels hit. What I would say is going to be a level that I'd look to take a long position is just a break above the recent H4 consolidation period. This is how I picture something like this, where we have a sell-off here. All of this sell-off is occurring, and then the very brief consolidation period at some point within the sell-off is going to be impactful. That's where you could argue that buyers really attempted to step in. They really tried to stop the bleeding and failed, because you could see price went sideways and then sold off a little bit more before a little bit of a bounce, right? So it's a failed consolidation period. But if we extend this to the left, we could see, is this H4 level or is this level at all impactful to the recent price action of our range? And I would say that it is. We could see that there's a bunch of wicks into the level, bodies into the level, strong reactions from the level. See, the low was set here before setting the high. So I would say that's going to be an impactful level overall. So the argument here is, I don't know, it doesn't have to reclaim exactly from this current bounce that we're seeing here. If it rejects, fine. Whatever happens between here, if the lower levels do not hit, whenever this reclaim happens, that will be my long trigger. So something like this would be my long, where I'm looking for an H4 reclaim, an H4 close above here. The invalidation is going to be set below the low before the reclaim, and take profit 1 will probably be set at these highs here, something like this. That's the general idea and the general argument I would have for an Ethereum long setup. Again, though, that's just if these lower levels don't hit that I discussed earlier, especially that higher time frame level. And now finally, Sol, I believe, gives one of the cleanest long opportunities out of the chart I've already discussed. And the reason for that is just the daily structure. So here at 165, we have the daily breakout point. We could see price rejected from the level, had a very significant sell-off from the level. We had daily consolidation below the level, a few wicks attempting to break above the level yet again, before finally smashing through and having a significant move higher. So this 165 level is going to be absolutely crucial for Solana. In addition to that, we have the 154.2 level, where again, it's another daily breakout point. If we extend it to the right, we have everything I want to see at the level: wicks, bodies, consolidation, strong reactions from that level. We also have a daily consolidation period before breaking out into another daily consolidation period into a larger leg higher. So we have two really nice levels that we can work with. What makes this setup even better is if I miss a long setup from 154, I could just simply wait for the reclaim of 165. And that's going to be an even better or an even stronger long setup because you already have the confirmation of the bounce from the lower daily level. So very similar to Bitcoin, I believe Solana is within the region of max RR, where it's going to be either it's going to bounce from here or daily structure is completely cooked and we're going to be going much lower. So that's really the opportunity I look for in this market when I'm looking to deploy some spot funds. I always find it very interesting that at major support levels, you have people that are the most worried about what is going to happen next in the market. What I mean by that is we have several layers of support on things like Bitcoin, things like Ethereum, and a ton of other altcoins that you really can't ignore. But the people who are ignoring these levels are people who are focused on lower time frames and not really interested in what higher time frames have to offer. When higher time frames always give you a cleaner picture, it feels like there's a lot of time to enter into these positions. Everything feels a lot more laid back, where if you go on lower time frames, it seems like absolute chaos. And it feels like you already missed the move, but prices are only up 3%. So it's really important to focus on higher time frames, especially when you could see that people are becoming max emotional about the price action. So breaking it down to the H4 chart, we could see that price has bounced from where you would expect, right? Where we have other bounces from the H4 time frame at that level. So this is a classic example where this is completely diddling in the middle. Price is not quite at the range low, not even close. Price is not quite reclaiming the range high. So it's one of those things where you just have to be patient. Is this a solid reaction so far? Yes. Is it a reaction to get into a long position yet? I would say no. Let's say you're entering into a long right here. I mean, you have a major daily level just 2.5% higher. So wouldn't it be better and safer to just wait for that reclaim, wait for that H4 close above, have your invalidation below the low before the reclaim, and have your take profit at something like that? Wouldn't that be a safer position? You'd be able to sleep much better at night knowing that you have, a daily level protecting you. Does that mean it's just, a trade that you're automatically going to win because you're waiting for a higher time frame reclaim? No, definitely not. But you definitely have more confidence at that daily level. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you can focus on higher time frame charts and ease your mind, ease your emotions. Emotions are just absolutely crushing your trading portfolio. So if you have any further questions, comments, anything like that, please feel free to ask. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.